What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Seth, and today we're going to be talking about the recent MapleStory 2 Chaos Rising update. So we're going to be going through the patch notes here. It's probably going to end up being a pretty lengthy video because there has actually been quite a few changes with this update, though of course most notably is going to end up being the raids, and other than that it's just kind of like a bunch of smaller things. And even the event itself, the turkey event, it's cool, but it's not really as cool as the Halloween event. In any case, let's get started right with it. I would appreciate if you would like the video, by the way, folks. Helps the video show up and searches and stuff like that. And then without further ado, are you ready for the real challenge? Because the Chaos Raids are here. These 10-player dungeons will be the most difficult fights you've seen in MapleStory 2 with the most powerful rewards to match. Yeah, the most difficult fights in any MapleStory, because the raids in this version of the game are actually harder than both the Chinese version and the Korean version of raids, which is kind of ridiculous. We're also going to be unloading a set of quality of life improvements to make your time in Maple World even better, plus a special Thanksgiving event and new items in a style crate. So that's kind of the big summary of what we're going to be going through with today's patch, everybody. I will put a link in the description so that you can end up reading through this yourselves. Maybe you want to read alongside, because then there's a bunch of pictures and everything like that. But in short, there's going to be a couple different Chaos Raids that are out right now. There's going to end up being the Devorak one, which I ended up actually just having a recent video come out about that, me doing it for like 4 hours straight and still didn't get through it. And then Mock, so that's going to be the Moonlight Fortress. These dungeons have a normal equivalent, and then this is kind of the raid version of it. Then finally there's going to be the Ludarium Clock Tower, but that's going to be coming out in like on November 30th, so you got quite a bit of time to end up grinding it up. That said, the raids themselves are they're a little bit too difficult, like in my opinion. Even going through them, I'm fairly positive that I could end up getting through it if I ended up having a decent enough group. But everybody has to just be so on point to end up actually getting through it. Like the average player, it's pretty much just impossible, dude. Like legit, it's super difficult. So anyways, the Shadow Altar raid, that's going to give you the legendary hat, the legendary gloves, and the legendary boots. And then the next one, the Mock, the Moonlit Fortress, that's going to give you the legendary top and the legendary bottom. And then the Ludarium Clock Tower is going to give us the legendary weapon. Now, the cool thing about these raids is that they're going to end up having 3 different types of legendary gear sets. So first of all, the Shadow Altar is going to require a gear score of 4,500, which honestly is way too low. You will not be able to complete it with 4,500 gear score unless you're like me and you kind of just have like a lot of your stats and everything are kind of associated with like lesser gear and stuff just for the sake of having physical piercing and boss damage on a savagery necklace kind of thing, right? But even then, my gear score is, you know, well over 4,500. You're just not going to be able to do it. The Moonlit Fortress, however, is 5,900 gear score, and then the Ludarium Clock Tower coming in the 30th is going to be 7,800. So you're going to have all of the legendary armor in order to end up going through it. Now, as I mentioned, with these 3 different sets of legendary armor, so whether you guys have experience with hard dungeons or not, the way that it works is in normal dungeons, you're going to be able to get like all of this blue gear with a very rare chance of getting a tradable epic item. But then as soon as you end up getting to hard dungeons, you're going to guarantee yourself both a weapon and a piece of armor that is going to be epic. It's going to be untradeable, and it's going to be bound to the character that you ended up earning it on. Now, the difference is that whereas, you know, in other areas, it's not as bad, but in here, you're going to end up getting any assortment of. So you can get, like, I'm a Berserker, and I can get armor for a priest. And then that's where you end up dismantling it, so that you can end up using it all to end up enchanting your gear, so on and so forth. So with that, one of the things that you can do when you get to the hard dungeons is you can see right here, if we get a great sword, let's just say for hypothetics that we're a priest, we ended up getting a great sword. You can actually dismantle the great sword. This works with the armor too, and you'll end up getting 10 fragments to the box, like a weapon box, an epic weapon box, or an epic armor box, right? And that's going to end up working towards your specific character. So you have to dismantle 4 pieces of armor or 4 different weapons in order to end up getting enough fragments to complete a full chest, and then it's going to guaranteed give you a weapon for your class, or you get to pick which armor you want for your class as well. Now, the reason why this is relevant is because the way that the raids are going to work is you're actually going to pick one of the set boxes. So you will just outright, when you complete the dungeon, I haven't completed them yet, but I've heard it from other people, you'll be able to choose the box type. So, for example, let's say we pick the frenzied, or not the frenzied, the panic set, right? So you'll pick the panic set, and then when you open that box, then it's going to give you a random class, whether it's for your character or for somebody else, of the legendary item of clothing, all right? So it's like, it's pretty brutal to actually end up getting not only the stuff for your character, but these boxes in general that are going to end up, you know, you can still dismantle the gear to end up getting fragments for the boxes that are going to give you the guaranteed item, which is good if you can actually end up getting through the raids. Now, the 3 different sets are going to end up being the Extreme, Rage, and Panic. So the Panic set is pretty much the big one. If you're a DPS character, you're going to be using that, where it's going to give you more output of damage, but you are going to end up losing defense. So it's still worth it, because in all honesty, when you get to raids, you get one shot no matter what anyways. So it doesn't really matter if you end up actually having any extra armor. The Extreme set and Rage set, I'm not sure which one is which. But one of them is more specifically geared towards Dark Descent, like the dungeon right here. So as you go through Dark Descent, it's very difficult to actually do this, but it's kind of like an endless wave challenge. And if you can end up getting, like, the deeper that you end up getting for your class, if you can be within the top 10, you end up getting a really good belt. And just generally, you're going to end up getting some good rewards from being able to go deeper and deeper and get heavy fruit from it, which you can trade for mounts and various other things in Queenstown. But either way, that kind of makes that one set of armor useless if you're not actually doing Dark Descent. And then the other set item is going to end up being health. So it's just all tank, all right? And that one pretty much is just going to be used on, like, it's pretty much the best armor you can get as a priest. I don't know if a knight uses that. I would assume knight just goes DPS with the panic set, but it's still pretty cool that there are these different options, even if it's super duper difficult to actually end up getting them. And each of these sets is going to, like, when I say sets, I mean, as you end up equipping more and more pieces of the set, you're going to end up getting more and more benefits. It's very similar to how they actually have it in Diablo 3 and just Diablo games in general. They call them set items, but in this game, a legendary item is a set item. So anyways, moving on from that, there is going to end up being quality of life improvements now. And one of them, which is very handy, is there's this little icon right here, Manage Wardrobe. And with it, you can actually set not only a shortcut, but you can just save and equip what outfits you're actually rocking. So this is just my gear set, and if I click on the outfit set, you can end up just, what is it? Items have already been assigned to this. Okay, so you have to reset it, but you can end up, oh, is this just gear? Oh, no, it's not. I see. So you can set up gear as well as outfits. That's interesting. I didn't even know that, dude. I didn't know that you could set it up for gear. That could end up being quite useful. More specifically, once again, if you're a freak and you actually can end up getting not only the Dark Descent set, but the Panic set as well, then you can end up cycling through all that stuff. So that's very, very handy. And then this isn't going to end up affecting not console players, people that use a controller. I use a controller myself, but we're going to end up having this little bar right here where we can cycle through 3 different hotbars. So that's going to be useful for PC players, obviously. The other thing too is when you're in your house now, you actually have the option of making the area and the height smaller. This was not actually apparent before. You could only increase, and then eventually you just couldn't, you can't make it any smaller. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty handy. I like having a bigger area, but honestly speaking, I might end up just kind of making a smaller house just because why not? Then there's going to end up being, they go on to show the style coins. So this is going to end up being the new style box that you can end up getting out of the store. You have to buy this with merit, so you have to spend real money. And you can get about 10 of them for 30 bucks. That's 30 American, so it's kind of expensive. Unfortunately, we only have this as the pack right now. Like this is $17 right here, and all you get is a dumb pumpkin hat, a bountiful name tag, as well as a chat bubble, which you can see right here. And then of course this little ally right there. So maybe if you want to kind of show your support with all this stuff, then go right ahead. Personally, I don't care about having a different hat. Like, it's like, so what? I'm more inclined to end up actually getting my hands on the style crates, because the style crates are gonna have a handful of different items that they can get out of that you can get out of them themselves, like uniquely. But on top of it, certain items that you get out of them are going to have different rarities, and then you can dismantle those for style coins. So the style coin shop is another thing that, alongside these style crates, is going to end up cycling new items over and over and over again. So they've got some kind of cool stuff. The top gear you're going for is kind of this weird, it's like a neon kitty outfit, which is kind of cute and adorable. I don't really care for it, but I mean, that's just me. And then there's going to be the cowboy outfit, which is kind of similar to the one that we already saw for Halloween. And there's a couple other really cool things, like this is the new mount. It's a 2-person mount, so you can actually have another person in the back, which is kind of cute. They got a couple co-op emotes that you can end up using with other people. There's combat text numbers, and I don't know, you can kind of just go through it all yourselves and just kind of see it all. It's pretty cool though. I like this. That's kind of a tombstone, so when you die, that's going to end up showing up, and it's, you know, there's some neat stuff here, to be sure. One of the other ones that I see a lot of people using is these wings right here, which are pretty cool, but there is also going to end up being weapon styles. So this one I like. I can't preview it, unfortunately, but the Holy Seraphim weapons are here, and then there's just a couple other just great sword items, I guess, just because that's my class, so that's the ones that I see, right? But either way, it's cool that we got more style crate stuff. Then we also have, this is very, very important for you guys that are, you know, actually into like hard dungeons or even normal dungeons and stuff. We actually have a dungeon limit reset. So it's a beta version. I guess it means that there could end up being bugs. But the way that this is going to end up working is you can pretty much reset your weekly clear. So you can only end up doing on one character. This, of course, applies to each of the different characters. Like each character, you're going to be able to do a total of 30 dungeons a week, 10 dungeons a day. So what this reset does, is it allows you to reset that counter for one character only. So you can see here, I actually am at 10 as I'm putting this video up to you guys, but I've actually already done, you know, I've already done my full 30 dungeons. It's just now I ended up actually resetting. So today in total, I actually did 20 dungeons. So it's pretty cool that you can end up getting the extra gear. Kind of helps out with the forging and stuff. Technically speaking, we're pretty much getting the same amount of gear as when we had the double loot drops, but it's just going to end up taking a lot longer. So it's kind of disappointing in that regard that it takes like such a long time. But either way, you know, there can end up being bugs with it, but it's pretty cool. So there's also been some changes with the design shop. So they've actually added, let me actually see, where is it? In the UGC, there's going to end up being a couple different weapons, including, more importantly of all, a great sword that you can end up reskinning. So I'm really, really down for this. They have a new gun as well for heavy gunners. Really, really cool. Really looking forward to seeing some of the custom stuff that people end up making with these. Because otherwise, up to this point, it was just kind of like, this one was the great sword, and it just kind of cuts off abruptly right here. And, you know, the gunner one was just this box right here that everyone just kind of made like Tic Tacs out of, and like other candy bars and junk. So it's cool that they actually have these things now. There was also a third one, but what was that actually? I don't remember. It's not actually showing a picture, but there's a third item as well. So anyways, there is also going to end up being a bit of a different price for some of these items. So I keep that in mind, that the merit is going to end up either increasing or decreasing depending on what these items are. Then there's also the Turkey's Attack event going on right now, which I referred to my other video that came out just yesterday that actually talks about the event itself and how you actually complete it. But essentially, you're going to end up getting yourselves a turkey mount out of it, which is pretty cool. And then also just a couple other like kind of useful items. But generally speaking, this event is kind of it's kind of like time gated, so you're just gonna have to log in every day to end up getting all this stuff, or just fishing and playing music so that you can end up getting fertilizer to fertilize a tree that's in Queenstown, so that you can end up getting stuff like this beautiful mount, and then there's a couple other things that you can get out of it as well. So it's still pretty cool stuff. And then there's the Autumn Delights sale. So they kind of just talk about the style crates as well as the different UGC templates. So you can refer to those as well in the description if you want to actually take a picture, you know, take a quick look at all of those things. I guess I could also just kind of go through it in game, kind of show you guys right here, right now. Like, these are some of the top items that you can end up getting out of the style crates. And, you know, this is the pack that we ended up just mentioning, so on and so forth. I'm still trying to kind of get in, you know, the habit of what I should actually be doing with these patch note videos and stuff. There we go. So a wizard template and a priest template. That's pretty cool. But it's very handy that we've got, you know, kind of this stuff to just show you in game. So if you're ever actually wanting to check all this stuff out, you just click on this arrow that's on the left side of your screen, and then you can kind of see all these patch notes and stuff in game. Of course, it's going to end up draining your frames, right? So then also, they go on to just say the patch notes in general. So the raids, of course, are going to end up being for 10 people. They're fairly difficult. I'm slowly working on making a tutorial on it because it's pretty difficult to explain. There's a lot of moving parts that go on with it, most of all because the different classes have to actually do very specific things. Like a heavy gunner needs to take out the healers as soon as they spawn by jumping in the air and shooting a homing rocket, and has to be strong enough to actually do so on the chaos run of the Shadow Altar, for example, you know. And then the knight has to pull all the ads, and I don't even know about the Moonlight Temple, but anyways. Then there's also going to end up being the Battle Sim Shop. That's right, I should actually show you guys this. So let's actually hop into, well, we don't actually have to hop into Queenstown. We can hop into the Chaos Raids lobby. Now this is a cool area, and it's going to end up being very useful for a handful of different reasons. Of course, there is a chance that you could end up randomly finding a group in here, but good luck with that. That's going to be pretty difficult. More importantly, though, there is a training dummy right here, and this is a single training dummy. So it's going to be a way to more accurately determine the amount of damage that you do instead of going and using the one that's in the clubs. Or the guilds, I mean. And then this is going to be the Battle Sim Operator. There's also another one of these guys in Queenstown. But this guy is going to end up unlocking his store items, which you can see are extremely pricey, for certain amounts of times that you end up completing raids. So this helmet, for example, you have to complete the Ludarium Clock Tower 25 times. This chest piece is going to be for the receive rewards 50 times from the Moonlight Chaos Dungeon raid, so on and so forth, for all these different items. And then last but not least, for 40 mil and 75 clears on the Ludarium Clock Tower, you're going to be able to get yourself this beautiful flaming horse, which is probably one of the coolest mounts in the entire game. But man alive, not only like clearing the dungeon 75 times, that's insane, but 40 mil? Like, yikes, dude. They really know how to add their time-gated stuff in this game, don't they? Now, the thing that's interesting to note is raids, you can only do 3 a day and 6 a week. So if you end up getting to the point where you got a crew that can end up going through the raids relatively well and consistently, then sure, by all means, go through the raid a total of 6 times. Then, you know, just end up doing the dungeon reset. Or actually, no, I don't think the dungeon reset affects raids. No, it doesn't. Okay, scratch what I just said. But you can end up resetting your daily dungeons. So yeah, never mind what I was talking about. So then they also go on to talk about the Battle Sim Shop in a bit more detail, where they're located, the dungeon cap resets. They're trying to evaluate player feedback, so that's why it kind of says it's in beta. Fair Fight has also been tweaked a bit. Fair Fight is where they end up scaling your damage down so that everybody in the world kind of has a fair chance of being able to damage these enemies. So damage scaled based on player level will no longer impact level 50 plus monsters, allowing higher leveled players to do more damage. Class buffs and passive skills will no longer be scaled by Fair Fight as well, which means that it's going to end up helping the Thief and the Priest builds. As well as heavy uses of buff and passive skills, because you know, some of those builds actually use that. There's a couple things with the Thief that are a little bit cheesy right now. in the raids, so we'll just have to kind of wait and see what happens with that. Then there's a couple changes with the design shop. Again, listing fees will be increasing, starting from 190 merits and going up to 390 merits with each listing beginning on November 8th. Sales fee will also be reduced, however, from 30% to 25%. This will be applied to all listings currently in the market, so people will end up making more merits from selling items, but it's going to end up being more expensive to actually have these items as well. I guess it's kind of trying to moderate the way that it all works, kind of stop people from, you know, just uploading all the garbage that they put up. I'm not sure. And then the Maple shop and the Maple guide tutorial they've added for the custom clothing, so that's going to end up being in the Maple guide right here, which I can't do that on this map and whatever. So they're going to end up giving you a couple different items. So like they say, the short cape template has been added for 100,000 mesos. Note, this template cannot be listed in the design shop. So they've added some items that you can buy in-game to give yourself custom clothing that everyone will be able to see, but people won't be able to buy it. The only way that you can actually do that is, of course, by creating it in the Maple workshop and then just uploading it to the store where people are going to be able to buy it for a limited time. Then there's going to end up being you know, the general updates, which they go through this list. It changes quite a few things that I'll kind of leave to you guys to actually go through, just because it's quite a hefty list. It just kind of goes on and on, but it's just little things, you know. They kind of balanced some of the stuff with the epic quest line, which is the main quest line. They ended up reducing attack of certain monsters in the dungeons that are related to the quest line, and just other side dungeons and stuff like that, just kind of taking player feedback. They also improved on the mouse and keyboard mode changes. So if there's an interactable object at the location where the mouse is clicked, you can now interact with said object after you reach that location. The mouse cursor will also turn yellow if it's hovering over an object that is interactable, etc., etc. There's also been some adjustments made to the tutorials so that it's easier to clear the Assassin and Runeblade tutorials, because the start of them was a little bit more difficult than some of the other characters. Now, one of the big important ones is the 10053 connection error. So this is something that would commonly happen in dungeons, and when you would end up disconnecting, it was kind of frustrating because you would actually have to get your hands on, there's like a red flower item, right? Let me actually see, where is it? Right here? Is it in consumables maybe? Yeah, there it is. So the red daisy. This is an item that ends up taking about like 800 health from you or something like that. And what you do is you pretty much just use this item inside a dungeon to kill yourself so that you can end up tombstoning yourself, and then you respawn back inside the dungeon, because otherwise the dungeons try to prevent people from entering late or disconnecting and cheating the system and stuff like that. So that's why they have this in place. However, disconnecting from the game mid-dungeon would end up causing people to end up missing the dungeon, because they would be stuck on the sidelines, either to end up doing that complex system of having to use those red flowers. But now they've actually changed it so that in order to reduce the amount of disconnects, players will now see a reconnection loading sign when their internet becomes unstable. It will attempt to reconnect for up to 45 seconds if any of the disconnection is detected. So you can see the state of the game, week 4 producer blog for more information. So that's going to be really, really helpful, and basically means that even if you end up having internet issues in the middle of a dungeon, you shouldn't just get kicked to the other side of the dungeon and be stuck outside and have to respawn and just kind of mess up the whole run, etc., etc., right? So the Navigator's level 50 reward box has also been updated. It will now reward 20 elixirs, 100 special red potions, 100 special red herbs, and an exceptional plus 10 enchantment scroll for your weapon. The players who obtained the previous level 50 reward box will and have opened it before November 8th will now receive the new box. For players who obtained the previous level 50 reward box but did not open it, they will not obtain the new items in the box. All boxes must be opened in order to end up receiving these, which, I mean, it's a little late for me to be mentioning this now, but of course these patch notes were up a little while ago already. So weapons enchanted with this scroll, however, cannot be dismantled for Chaos Onyx crystals, so keep that in mind. Then there's a couple other changes. So buy merit prices have been reduced by 50% on Steam for South America. currencies, while on the South America region. See the South America pricing change article for further details. I'm guessing this has got to do with merit kind of being a bit broken on Steam. Now, one of the things I want to point out to you guys right here, right now, is if you're sitting there thinking that you can kind of cheat the system, maybe you're playing with the Nexon launcher and then you want to actually install the Steam version so you can end up getting your merits for cheaper, which yes, you most definitely can. But it's weird that apparently the way that works, I've just heard from a friend of mine, Stratus, ended up kind of mentioning this, where if I buy merit right now on the Nexon launcher, it's not going to actually carry over on my account if I end up logging in on the same character, same account on the Steam version. So it's kind of like, it's weird like that. It's kind of like a separate currency, so you gotta keep that in mind. All right, so level restrictions for whispers have been set to level 25. Level restrictions for ad banners and ad balloons are now set to 50. So they're hoping to combat the spammers and the bots that are just kind of mentioning their stupid meso sites and stuff like that. They're banning people and bots left and right constantly. They're really struggling to try and keep up with it, but at least they are making an effort to do so, which is really, really cool. There's also some updates for those of you that have a Razer keyboard. So I think that this is cool, so I think it's worth mentioning. The unique color of the selected character's job will always be displayed. Flash red once when damage is received, and flash red constantly when health is 30% or less. Rainbow effects repeated 3 times on level up as well. So really cool that they're kind of going the extra mile for even just the minute details like that. So then there's a sales update, and they kind of mention like all of the different items you can get out of the style boxes, which incidentally, most of these items out of the style boxes, you're going to be able to get out of here, the crate spotlight. So there's this foxtail, which I really like, and there's a gas mask, which is kind of cool, you know, if you want to end up being pyro and stuff. But this does not include everything out of the style coins shop. So in order to get some of these items, you're gonna absolutely have to buy crate items and then dismantle the crate items in order to end up getting the coins. But either way, they've got some cool stuff. This should be a ninja belt rather than a watch, but whatever. And then some armor that was in the previous style box and stuff like that. So then they also fixed a bunch of different bugs. So they corrected the name for the SML or MSL, geez Louise, MSL Onyx weapons from Dragon Hunter to Machine Hunter. So essentially the MSL weapon is still going to end up doing the exact same thing, but they changed it so that it now reflects and says Ludarium Clock Tower instead. As far as I've actually heard, didn't they make it? Yeah, they've actually changed it so that the special effect, like you can see on this weapon, Shadow Hunter, this is going to actually quadruple in all of the different Chaos raids. It's just that each of the different weapons you get out of the hard mode dungeons are going to end up having different abilities to them. So this one's got increased physical attack and magic attack damage by 9% for 11 seconds, as opposed to, let's just take for example this sword right here is chance to increase attack speed by 8% for 16 seconds on hit, and again it's quadrupled when you're in the other dungeons. And then this one is just increased physical damage and magic damage by 4.5%, but for 20 seconds instead. So it depends which weapon you actually want to end up going for. So then they also end up mentioning, last but not least, known issues list. So the new tab in the Merit Market Premium shop lists several items that are no longer new, along with the new items. So they're trying to get that under control. User-generated content in the design shop that have apostrophes in the name cannot be linked in chat for some reason. Dark Cell prison keys are available as a looted item, but the corresponding quest it was used for has been removed. And then they go on to say a couple other things as well. So you guys can check all that stuff out if you want. Again, I'll put a link in the description to the patch notes themselves. And I'm kind of getting the hang of this whole, doing MapleStory pretty much the same as what I've been doing with Trove for years. In either case, thanks for watching. Really hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it helpful. I kind of wanted to cover the stuff that I felt was the most important. There was some stuff I ended up skipping over, so you can go through the patch notes yourselves if you want, but that was pretty much everything that I would view as like valuable enough information that you actually oh, you got to know about this kind of stuff, right? So anyways, thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like the video, sub, hit that notification bell if you want to see more videos coming out from me daily. And then otherwise, if you want to support me, you can always sponsor the YouTube channel with that join button down below. Check some of my real life merch, or you can end up checking out the link to Gawkbox, which is a way you can donate to me for absolutely free. Thanks for watching, everybody. Sayonara and stay epic.